A week ago, I published a video on my channel about my severe issues I had with the new 16-inch MacBook Pro. By the way, I was purchasing it with the highest specs possible and Adobe Creative Cloud, in particular in Premiere Pro, as you can see here on the screen. A video that typically takes about 25 minutes of rendering time all of a sudden was going up to 8, 10 and more hours of rendering time for the same content, which was completely unacceptable to me. Interestingly enough, the graphic performance on the 16-inch MacBook Pro was terrific. And you see here a live demo of a graphic demo I did run because I wanted to check on the Radeon Pro GPU, but everything was just perfect. Now in the meanwhile, I solved my problem. And I also had a very friendly Apple support employee on the phone. And I want to show my workflow, what I did to fix it, since there will be more people out there having difficulties in constellations and setup. And I suggest let's get started and have a look at my solution. So let's go briefly through the workflow, what I did to fix my 16-inch MacBook Pro with Adobe Creative Cloud. Step number 1, make sure you're on the safe side with your data. Save all your work, projects you might have started, save your data, save your files, close all programs, make sure you backed up all important data, because sometimes something can go unexpectedly wrong. And then you will become very nervous if you have not secured your important files on an external hard disk. Step number 2. Left click on the Apple icon on the menu bar on the left hand side. You will see there is one menu entry saying shut down. Place your mouse pointer on shutdown and left click. Another window will open and your Mac is asking you, are you sure you want to shut down your computer now? You have 60 seconds to get this done, otherwise the computer will automatically shut down, so make sure what's coming in the procedure on this page of my little presentation here is done within a minute. Now place your mouse pointer with your left hand on shutdown, but do not click yet. That's important, and you use your left hand because you will use your right hand in a moment for something different. Now place one finger from your right hand on the Touch ID button in the upper right hand side corner of your Mac keyboard, but again, do not push yet. That's important. Now what you do is you click shutdown with your left hand finger on the blue soft shutdown button and immediately push and hold for 10 seconds the Touch ID button. So push and hold it for 10 seconds. Your computer will turn black on the screen. Give it some time, count down at least 10 seconds, and then you're good to go. So what was that procedure all about we just did? There is something on your MacBook which is called the System Management Controller, SMC, and it's a hardware-related control function which is in charge of various things listed here on the Apple support page. So responding to the power button, making sure your environment light is measured the correct way for the ambient lighting, battery management, thermal management. So for instance, if you might have issues with your fan blowing too heavily and making too much noise, an SMC reset can fix that. And I did it in the past with previous generation MacBooks, but I did it slightly differently on the other MacBooks which I had before I had my 16-inch MacBook Pro. And the procedure there was, like you see here on the second entry, Shift Control Option and then pressing the power button at the same time. Now, I had a discussion with an Apple support employee on the hotline when I had these massive problems with my 16-inch MacBook Pro, and that person told me that's the procedure which was in place for all former MacBook Pro generations. I don't know if it is still working. I didn't try it out on my 16-inch MacBook Pro, but he recommended to me to do it in the way I just described in that little workflow before, making sure that you hold, when the computer is shutting down, hold down and push the Touch ID button for at least 10 seconds. And for me, that worked like a charm. Let's now do the SMC reset live on the MacBook Pro. So this is my 16-inch MacBook Pro here. Let's go with the mouse pointer to the Apple logo on the menu bar on the left-hand side. Let's choose shut down. And now maybe in order to be on the safe side, let's get the iPhone involved. So here's the stopwatch from the iPhone. Let's just simply start it, and then we do the procedure here. Left hand finger on the soft button here, shut down, right hand finger on the Touch ID mechanical button, and then when we hit 10, press and hold here with your finger, don't move it away, wait until 10 seconds elapsed. And you see here we are coming close to 20 seconds. We started at 10 seconds, so by now I think we are safe to remove the finger here. And the SMC reset has been done completely. Your MacBook will not start automatically after an SMC reset. So on the new MacBook generation, you can hit any key here. Let's take space, and then this should boot up again. It will start with the Apple logo like always, but later when logging on, you cannot use your Touch ID because it's a fresh start. You will have to fill in your password once, and when you did this for the next logon, you can actually use your Touch ID again. So password is fed into the computer, and now it should start. You see here the progress bar. The progress bar will take more time than usual because the SMC reset, as the word is saying, reset certain features, but it will do fine and start up in a moment, and we'll be back on our desktop. I think this is good to go, and we can close that little clip here. Step number 3. We already did the SMC reset, and now we are doing another reset which is hardware related, and which I'm going to explain in a moment. So the way this works is with your left hand, place fingers over the Option and Command keys, but do not push yet. That's the same as when we had the SMC reset. Do not push yet. With your right hand, place fingers over R and P keys, but again, do not push yet. And by the way, your MacBook has to be completely switched off in order to get this working. And we did the SMC reset. I recommend you shut down your MacBook again. Make sure it's completely switched off. Then place the 4 fingers on these 4 keys as described here and wait for a second and take a deep breath. Now push and hold all 4 fingers simultaneously until the Apple logo appeared twice. That's important. Wait until it flashes twice. And in between those 2 appearances of the Apple logo, you will see a lot of black screen. So don't get nervous about it. Just keep pressing these 4 keys simultaneously. Then you can lift and release your fingers and let the computer restart. Now, what was that procedure all about which we just conducted? And there is something on your computer which is called the NVRAM or PRAM on your Mac, and it's called the non-volatile random access memory, which is a small section in your memory that the Mac is not deleting when you switch off the computer completely. So for instance, you might have seen on your MacBook Pro, if you adjust the brightness of the keyboard or the screen, if you adjust the volume of your sound, if you select, if you have different partitions, a certain startup disk partition, whatever it is, time zone, things like that, they do not go away and reset themselves if you shut down your computer completely. And they are stored in the NVRAM or in the PRAM, which is kind of the similar concept for slightly different information. And you can reset this in the same way as we were able to reset the SMC before. And it's done via these 4 keys, Option, Command, P and R. The only difference between the newer MacBook generations and the older ones is that your earlier MacBooks would not start up by just pushing a key on the keyboard, and you needed to use the power button on older MacBook generations. Let's now do the NVRAM reset live on the 16-inch MacBook Pro here. And there is one trick which helps you to find out whether the reset was successful. And the way I'm doing this is I'm going on brightness and I push up the brightness to the highest level. You see this now here. And since brightness is one of the informations, but you could also use sound volume, of course, which is stored in the NVRAM and which is not deleted when the computer shuts down, then if the NVRAM reset was successful, that information should actually be reset to a default value. So let's remember it for the next couple of minutes. My brightness was pushed up to the highest level here. And let's see how this changes when we did the NVRAM reset. The second remark I want to make is you need to shut down the computer, of course. If you do this right after the SMC reset, your computer is shut down already, then you don't have to do this. But if you want to do the NVRAM reset only, make sure you shut down your computer completely, which is what I'm going to do right now. And then we do the reset, and then we check whether the reset was successful. So the computer is down now. As I said, left hand on Option and Command, right hand on P and R. Not pushing yet. We need to push them simultaneously for as long as the Apple logo appears twice. So let's do this now. I'm going to start pushing them on all four at the same time simultaneously down. And now you see the Apple logo flashing for the first time. It goes away. The screen will now stay black for quite a few seconds, and then it will flash up again with the Apple logo, and then I can release my fingers, and then we check whether the reset was successful. So let's give it a few seconds. You see this is clearly longer than 10 seconds, what it needs to reset the NVRAM, but it should come back in a moment. Here we go. I can release my fingers. The computer will start up automatically and boot. Again, I will have to fill in my password because Touch ID can only be used from the second logon on. So I'm doing this right now. The computer will start. You see again the progress bar here. Sometimes it might take a little longer in the same way as we saw it as the SMC reset. Also, of course, it depends on, what the speed of your MacBook Pro configuration is and all of that. There are different parameters coming into that. You saw now how the screen dimmed a little bit. I'm going to check now the brightness here. So if I go on the brightness, you actually see here that this is not at the full brightness where it was before I shut down my computer. And that's a clear indication that the information on brightness as a setting has been deleted and the NVRAM has been fully reset to its default values, which might help under certain circumstances if you do this reset. Step number 4, we are turning now our attention to Adobe Creative Cloud, and my particular problem was Premiere Pro, which all of a sudden, instead of rendering for 20-25 minutes, was rendering for 10+ hours, which is completely unacceptable. And one important step you might want to do here, which is my step 4, is delete all third-party plugins you collected over the years for Adobe Creative Cloud. And depending on what app you're using, in my case, I had plugins in Premiere Pro. For instance, for noise reduction, make sure you remove them all. But of course, also make sure you have the installation files in a safe place. And then you can also, or you might want to wait for updates. These plugins might not be compatible yet fully with macOS Catalina, or might not be compatible fully with the new Adobe Creative Cloud 2020, which was just released a couple of months ago. So these plugins need to go away if you want to identify what the problems on your Adobe app might be. And there are locations where plugins are stored under Adobe, and typically they are in your hard disk. And then you go from your hard disk to Library, Application Support, Adobe, Common, Plugins. And then you might find things like Media Core, certain version numbers, and you can remove them all and keep the installation files, as I said, in a safe place. Step number 5, if you identified the Adobe Creative Cloud app which made you trouble, deinstall it from the Creative Cloud suite. And in my case, that was Premiere Pro. So that was the project where I got stuck. So I removed it, did the clean install. And there's one element which is important I'm going to show in a little video clip now. So if one particular app in the Adobe Creative Cloud suite is creating trouble to you, not working the way you want it, there is an easy way to deinstall it and get it back. And you see here my app window from the Adobe Creative Cloud, which is the symbol here. If I push it, I get it. And in my case, it was Premiere Pro who was making me scratching my head. So if you go here to Premiere Pro, you go to these 3 dots, more actions, you can say uninstall. And then it's asking you if you want to keep or remove notification, alerts, interface settings, other preferences. And I recommend, if you really want to get a clean reinstall, you remove them all. So you push remove. I'm not doing it here right now because then I have to wait for another few minutes to get it reinstalled. And then it's completely cleaned up from your MacBook. Step number 6. After removing the Adobe Creative Cloud app from the computer, including all preferences and settings, after we identified which app is the problem, we now need a clean reinstall. So in my case, I reinstalled Premiere Pro and got a fresh install without previously defined settings and preferences. And I'm going to show in a little video how this worked, and actually that brought me back to content creation and removed all the annoyance about that in general wonderful 16-inch MacBook Pro with the highest specs I've ever had on a laptop. When Premiere Pro or the other software you want to remove, the other app here from Adobe has been fully removed, all the preferences have been deleted, you can again go into your Creative Cloud app container and then reinstall it. So in this case, you would find here not uninstall, like in my case, because I didn't uninstall it right now, but then install, and then you're good to go and up and running. And then make sure you reference your folders again where you have your projects, and then you're good to go and you have a clean, new, shiny and hopefully working installation of that particular Adobe app on your MacBook. After I worked through the workflow I was introducing in this video, my problems vanished. So I could render my video here. You see it here on screen. It's about the new Leica SL2, which will come up in the next days. And it took about 20-25 minutes, which is to be expected for a video of this size, and 4K and high quality rendering. So I'm very happy with the result, and now I can finally enjoy that beautiful big screen on the 16-inch MacBook Pro, the powerful sound system they have integrated here, the graphic power and the CPU. I have 8 TB of SSD, which gives me plenty of storage, and also 64 GB of RAM. And I'm sure with more firmware updates, or let's call it software updates from Apple, this will go better and better. And they just released one which I think improved already a lot of things and known bugs, and this will continue for a while. So now I'm happy, and if you liked my video, if this was useful to you, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching, and peace out.